Hi, we're going to talk about the empirical rule. So the empirical rule describes a special characteristic of a normal distribution. So just because you have a symmetric bell-shaped curve doesn't necessarily mean it's a normal distribution. A normal distribution has a special characteristic where if we mark the mean in the middle, which remember we're going to use mu. This is a Greek letter called mu, so actually I'm going to write up here. Mu represents the mean. If we go one standard deviation away from the mean in either direction, above or below, so I'm going to label this as the mean plus one standard deviation, so that would be one standard deviation above the mean. And then to the left would be the mean minus sigma, one standard deviation. So if you go one standard deviation below the mean, the percent of the data between those two, so within one standard deviation from the mean, is 68% of all the data. So 100% of the data fits underneath the whole curve. 68% is within one standard deviation of the mean. Let's say we were talking about heights of people, for example. 68% of those people would be within one standard deviation from the mean, would be in this middle section. If we go two standard deviations from the mean, so I'm going to mark another standard deviation in each direction, and I'm going to label those as mu, the mean, plus 2 sigma. That means 2 sigmas, 2 standard deviations above the mean. And if I go to the left, the mean minus 2 sigma, the mean minus 2 standard deviations, so 2 standard deviations below the mean. 95% of the data in the whole distribution is within that interval, within 2 standard deviations from the mean. And finally, if we go 3 standard deviations from the mean, which is almost the whole entire normal distribution, almost the whole distribution. So that would be the mean plus 3 standard deviations, and then the mean minus 3 standard deviations. That encompasses almost all of the data. There are some outliers beyond that, but the percent that's within 3 standard deviations from the mean is 99.7%. So the empirical rule is sometimes called the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, because that describes what percent of the distribution falls within 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations away from the mean.